Hi folks, this is John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru. Today is November 16th, 2019, and I thought I'd do a fun video, fun and yet sobering, because I'm going to take a look at the fact that financially, in the long run, it might be better to throw your hat in to an organization that has a union job and work for them in the long term, even in the short term in some ways, rather than becoming a therapist assistant. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and delve into what some of the numbers look like. Now, folks, this data is based on best averages. It's based on information that's provided by the APTA, AOTA, and job sites, labor and statistics, UPS's own site, just for comparison. But before I get into this slide, just want to point out that at one point I was a package handler for UPS. In fact, I did it in the midst of the time that I was working as a therapist. I did it as a stopgap to help me get through school, graduate school, while still supporting my family, making sure I had benefits, and that I had a job I can work in the wee hours of the morning before most people get up so that I could get some work done and go to school during the day. So anyway, I have experience working for a union company and for UPS, and I'll tell you something about the job. It's hard for one thing. I mean, my body took a beating at certain days. I had aches and pains here and there. I did get in good shape though. I got thin and I got pretty strong from working there, but that was as a young 30 something. So now I'm 51. I don't know how I do there now, but as a young therapist who's just graduated, your body is usually fairly strong still. And so I thought this would be a good comparison for those that are young and thinking about going to school to be an assistant versus some potential you might have in non-degree jobs that are unionized. So let's look at some data. Now, I recently did a video on comparing the DPT to the PT assistant, and the information I got on average pay was a little bit different than what I've got here, a little bit lower for a new graduate PTA according to healthcaregraduate.com. They're showing the average at $33,780 per year for a PT assistant. And if you break that down to an hourly wage, it's about $16.24 per hour. Part of the reason I brought this up was because I've seen some posts on some of the larger Facebook groups, sorry about that, that talk about therapy jobs right now. And some people are saying they're getting ridiculously low offers as assistants for PRN rates and even just regular full-time salary jobs. And so this seems quite in line with what we're seeing, and perhaps this number might even be lower. Codas, for whatever reason, according to the AOTA, make on average a bit more right out of school at $39,000 per year or $18.75 per hour average. And I'm not sure how accurate that is. And so some of you Codas that watch this video might want to just comment on what you're seeing, because I'm thinking maybe right now the AOTA is being a little optimistic. Now, UPS sort, and I put sort even though it's not the only warehouse job available for UPS, but right now, according to Indeed.com, which is a very large search site, average hourly rate for a UPS worker in the warehouse is $12.89 per hour. However, I will tell you in my area, which is in Virginia, in the Richmond and Fredericksburg areas, we're seeing sort jobs go for 14 to 16 and sometimes a bit more per hour, so higher and closer to what the therapist positions are making. But I'm going to go with what Indeed.com says for average because I think it still will be illustrative of the comparison. So anyway, obviously the advantage, the win here goes to PTAs on average are making $6,969 per year more than somebody that gets a 40-hour job in a warehouse. There's a lot of part-time jobs that pay that, but you certainly can often get full-time jobs with UPS working in the warehouse, and I worked with a lot of guys that did that. Codas, on average, are making $12,189 per year more, but that's just salary. That's what they're getting paid on average. But let's look at how that might actually diminish. Now, one of the big factors in cost, or how much we're making, is actually what we have to pay out also. Because let's face it, we pay taxes, but one of the biggest deductions right off the bat from our paycheck is what we pay in healthcare. If you're a hourly, or I should say full-time employee, one of the things you get full-time status for is obviously benefits. And a lot of you who watch my videos or work in the healthcare field, you're in it partly because you need benefits. You're doing full-time work because of that. And I couldn't find any specifics to what therapists on average pay for healthcare. So I had to go with what the average statistics show right now for all jobs across the United States in terms of out of pocket, out of your paycheck per month goes towards healthcare. So this is the best data available by two groups, peoplekeep.com and ehealthinsurance.com. And on average right now, the average worker, non-unionized, is paying $440 per month for a single person health coverage and $1,168 per month for a family plan. So that's average. And I will tell you, based on the recent jobs I've had, I've seen that. In fact, my last job, I was paying about almost $1,400 a month. And that was for a mid-level plan out of pocket on my last therapy job. Fortunately, I work now for a nonprofit large hospital organization, and it's closer to about $400 to $500 per month. So it's come down drastically, and that's for a family plan. So I'm on the low end of this average now. I'm doing quite well with my newest job, even though I'm getting paid a little less. In the long run, I do better. Now, on average, the waiting period for benefits to kick in for healthcare for all jobs is roughly 3 months. And many of you probably have experienced that. My last job was like that. My current job, another great thing about my current job, they kicked in the first month after I started with them. So great benefit. But on average, about 3 months is pretty typical. Now look at UPS. They have to pay a union dues. And the way they calculate it, from what I found on UPS's website, or UPS Teamsters, which is the union that UPS workers are under, their dues is calculated at 2.5 times their hourly wage plus $7, according to UPS Teamsters. And so if we're looking at the average of $12.89 per hour, that works out to $39.23 per month as the union dues. So it could be, let's say it's $40, just to round it up. Now, health insurance, according to them, is basically free after 1 year of work. So they got to work a whole year before the benefits kick in, which kind of, stings for them. And if that's all you've got for a job that might get you benefits, you're waiting a while. And during that time, you're having to pay something to get health insurance. Now, if you're making a low wage, you're going to probably qualify for a pretty sweet deal on a plan through Obamacare. But you still got to wait for the even better deal through UPS. So the win at this point, just looking at assistants versus UPS workers, assistants, they get the win for the amount of time. Within 3 months, they've got insurance generally. But when you look at total coverage, like out of pocket, there's no comparison. By far, it's a lot cheaper for a UPS worker than the out of pocket that an assistant would have to pay. So now let's look at salary versus cost of the health plan and see if the numbers start to even out a little bit. So if you're working at UPS and your average salary per year is $26,811 as a starting average warehouse worker, after 1 year, you're going to be paying dues of $470.76 per year would be what your dues would be calculated at, which leaves you with a leftover after dues of $26,340, keeping in mind that your health insurance is covered by that. Now, an assistant, on average, is making $33,780 to $39,000 between PTAs and CODAs. After 3 months, now you're starting to get your health insurance, and you're paying anywhere from $440 to $1,168. If you times that by 12, then you're paying out of your salary anywhere from $5,280 to $180 if you have a single person plan versus $14,016 for a family plan. So what's left over after that? Well, now we've got a salary of a PTA coming fresh out of school if they're looking to have a family coverage of $19,764, or if they've only got a single person plan, $28,500 for what would be left after a new graduate assistant. Now, what about a CODA? CODA, if they have a family plan with an average salary of a CODA, would be keeping $24,984, or if they had a single person plan, $33,720. Now, who's winning at this point? Well, the UPS worker is definitely winning with a family plan by far. But the assistants are still a little bit better, especially PTAs are barely better, but CODAs are still better on average than the UPS worker at this point if they are single. But family plan kills both the assistants. Now, along with the fact that we pay out of our paycheck for health insurance, we also have what are called out-of-pocket maximums. So you've got your co-insurance too, and so there's so much that you have to pay in terms of the healthcare plan itself, where you contribute towards that, but then you have healthcare bills, and you've got to pay a certain amount out of pocket before everything is covered after that. And for UPS, the maximum out of pocket for an individual coverage is $1,000 per year if you're a union member, $2,000 for a family. When I was a UPS worker back in 2001 and going into 2002, I had no out of pocket. It was a sweet plan. But times have changed and UPS workers are contributing more, but they're also making a little bit more than they did then. Now, I had 2017 data here, and it's probably a bit higher now, but on average across all industries, non-unionized, the average individual deductible for a single person is $4,328. So what you would have to pay out of your own pocket before 100% coverage is kicking in. Average family deductible in 2017 was $8,352. So if you take those numbers into account, what are you left with? You've got assistance after health plan and deductible. So let's say an assistant had a lot of bad health, their family had a lot of bad health, and they had to pay the maximum out of pocket. So you've got a PTA, new grad, let's say they've got a family coverage. They are left, if they've used all their deductible as well, with $11,412. That's it. Now, if they're individual and they maxed out their out of pocket, they're at $24,172 after everything. A CODA fares better, $16,632 if they've got the family plan and they happen to have to max out their out of pocket to $29,392. Now, UPS workers, out of pocket, they're looking at anywhere from $24,340 to $25,340 if they maxed out. So who's the win to this time? Well, the UPS worker is over the PTA in both scenarios. The CODA is over the UPS worker when it comes to having, oh, that's not a family, that should be individual. So I apologize, the slide's a little off. But so CODAs would win if they're just paying only for themselves. But if the CODA has a family, they lose to the UPS worker. But here's some kickers. UPS offers benefits these benefits with a part-time job. Now, obviously, you wouldn't be making the same salary if you're only working part-time, but when you're a sorter, you can have literally hours around the 17 and a half hour per week and still be considered part-time. Whereas most therapy jobs I've seen, you've got to put in a minimum now of 36 hours to be considered full-time for your benefits. And then keeping in mind, of course, that assistant school is going to take 2 years. But a UPS worker, I mean, you can get a job as an 18-year-old with UPS, and after working for a year, you're still a year ahead of the assistant even starting their new job, and you're starting to get your benefits. Now, here's another thing to consider with UPS and being an assistant. So you've been an assistant for a number of years, let's say. Your average salary in the United States as an assistant right now is roughly $58,720 per year. I'm going to guess, just based on the healthcare changes that are going on right now, we're going to see that dip. That number is probably going to drop. Quotas, on average, after a number of years of practice, are about $58,623 per year. So practically the same as PT assistants. Now, one thing you can do as a UPS worker, if you've worked for a while in a warehouse, you become eligible for other types of jobs, and one of them is as a UPS delivery driver. And those guys make good money. It's still a unionized job, and on average, a UPS driver's salary is about $82,279 per year, according to the statistics that are available. I can't remember if that comes directly from UPS. I think it's just reports to job sites. And that's pretty good. And so when you look at the comparison of a seasoned assistant versus somebody that's probably seasoned with a company like UPS, there's no comparison. In fact, since it's unionized, that UPS delivery driver's job is actually going to net them more money than even a DPT and an OTR are going to average, just based on this, on some of the same statistics I just shared. Furthermore, and this is something to consider, as a UPS worker, and there are other companies that do this for unionized jobs, there's some pretty sweet continuing education in terms of degrees. Back when I graduated or worked for UPS, I was getting $4,000 per year paid for my degree program as a master's in divinity. And that greatly helped. That was just tremendous. And that was a half-time job, part-time job, and it's still an available resource to workers of UPS. In fact, right now they're paying up to $25,000 towards a degree program for a 4-year college degree. And so if you still have the energy after you've worked today at UPS to take some classes, that's a pretty sweet deal. Now, most healthcare jobs that I've seen, and I've been involved in several companies over the last 28 years, back in the day, we used to have not too bad continuing education. I worked for one company that had speakers come in regularly to give us free CEUs. That was great. There are some companies that still do a little bit of that, but for the most part, we've seen a drastic cut in continuing ed. There are some companies that don't give any. I have been with companies recently that offer around $200 to $250 per year, and that's it, of continuing ed. And that's basically, just for your continuing education courses. I'm blessed right now to be working for a company that gives, I think it's about $4,000 per year for a degree program. And that's a pretty sweet deal. Not many companies offer that. So anyway, when you look at a company like UPS with a unionized job, they have tremendous benefits in advancing your degrees. And of course, working for large companies like UPS don't only involve moving packages and very physical jobs. There's also managerial positions, and there's so many logistical positions within the company that you could make a good career of an organization like that. And if you've gotten a degree as being a basic warehouse worker, you could move up from that point, having now the knowledge from a degree program that might benefit you in the company even more. So what is this somewhat goofy yet sobering comparison taught us? Well, one is that assistants are of little more monetary value than a warehouse worker for UPS. Obviously, this was somewhat of a goofy comparison, but it teaches us something. Healthcare workers and workers in general, they pay a lot more for insurance than unionized workers. Now, the Teamsters, obviously one of the most powerful unions in the United States, they have the clout to work out some good deals. And so we've talked a lot about unions and the fact that they will be beneficial in some respects. They might cause challenges in others, but you could see that with collective bargaining power might be very beneficial to your actual take home. The out-of-pocket for healthcare claims can be crippling for anybody. And we talked about some low salary jobs here, but it's a lot less impactful because you get a lot less out of pocket for a UPS worker than the typical healthcare worker. So if you want to sweat, perhaps be sore most days that you work, and you want to work hard, and you want to leave your work at work, consider UPS. I mean, every time I worked in first loading a truck, and when I got done loading the truck, well, the job was done. I didn't have to worry about it. It didn't come home with me at all. When I was working in sort, once our chute, which dropped us the packages, was clear, we were done. Nothing else to worry about. Didn't bring our work home. That's what kind of a blessing that kind of job can be. But if you want to feel stressed, because let's face it, therapy jobs are stressful right now, perhaps be sore because let's face it, sometimes we're moving some really big patients and we go, ooh, I just hurt my back. And work hard because we still work very hard as therapists, and take your work home. I have yet to meet a therapist that's a conscientious therapist that doesn't in some way bring home their work. Then you should become an assistant. And let's face it, they're very different jobs. Some of you who are in healthcare would never, ever consider working a factory job. And, I don't blame you because there's a reason I left UPS and continued on as a therapist. But I'll tell you what, even at the age of 51, sometimes I look with a little bit of nostalgia at that job, which I got done with the day. I just went home and I didn't worry about it. So anyway, I hope you found this interesting. I might do some other comparisons, especially as we're talking about unions right now. I think it might be helpful to see some of the potential benefits of unionization that might be able to be brought to healthcare. I don't know if we can see the same level of benefit that somebody at UPS would be experiencing, but some of those benefits might be possible. And I think that might be encouraging for us in the long run. Anyway, let me know what you thought about the video. Take care, God bless, and have a great night.